If you saw my last video discussing why The Devil Wears Prada 2 should not have been made, you'll know that I had very low expectations going into this movie. Unfortunately for me, The Devil Wears Prada 2 went even lower than my expectations. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Sienna. Welcome to my channel where I talk about things that don't make sense to me, which is most things. Yesterday, I went to go see The Devil Wears Prada 2, and I knew fully well that this was not going to be a great movie. I barely expected it to be a mediocre movie, but I really did not expect this movie to leave me feeling so icky. Yeah, I don't know how else to say it. I just felt gross when I left this movie. And not because it was like a boring rehash of a movie from 20 years ago, because it wasn't. The story was actually different enough from the first movie to feel like a genuine sequel and not just the same story with new characters, you know, like we've been seeing a lot of lately. You know those people who come into your life kind of randomly, either through school or work, maybe a friend group, where you're kind of forced to interact with them socially on a semi-regular basis. And this is the type of person where you can just tell right off the bat that they lie about everything. Not big, fantastic lies necessarily, but like, for whatever reason, they just feel the need to exaggerate about everything. Like, someone will be talking about how their dad was in the Air Force, and the person will interrupt and say something like, "Oh yeah, I was in the Air Force too." And everyone will turn to them and be like, "Oh, really? I didn't know that. When did you serve?" And then they'll say something like, "Oh, that's classified." I used to go to school with a kid like that. I remember one time asking him if he wanted to come over to a party over the weekend. Just a theater kid party, nothing crazy. Just a bunch of kids with big egos congratulating each other. But anyway, he said that he couldn't come because he was going base jumping over the weekend. And for anyone who doesn't know, base jumping is kind of like skydiving, except for instead of jumping out of an airplane, you jump off of a cliff or something like that. And for reference, I was 13 when this conversation happened. I think the kid was like 2 years older than me, so he was like 15 at the time. In most states, including mine, you have to be at least 18 to go do that sort of thing. But I, being barely pubescent, gave the kid the benefit of the doubt. And so the next week at school, I asked him, "Hey, how was base jumping?" And he ran away from me. The Devil Wears Prada is the personification of that type of person. So the movie starts off with Andy going to a journalist award ceremony. Just as she is about to go up and accept her award, she then gets a text that she and her entire staff are being laid off.
Fired. But
She then gives a big speech about how unfair it is that all these big corporations keep sticking it to the little guy, and all of these hard workers are getting laid off just so big news can save a few bucks. And yeah, I get what they were trying to do here, I really do, but you cannot have Anne Hathaway complain for the first 10 minutes of a movie about how unfair society is to the working class while she is standing in a luxury apartment overlooking Central Park. Not to mention the entire time she's wearing a luxury suit. And you can kind of tell that the writers knew that this wasn't realistic because they make Andy say, "Oh, I know people have it worse than I do, but man, this sucks." And you're right, Anne Hathaway. Some people live in New York City and just got fired from McDonald's because they were 5 minutes late to work, and they were depending on that $14 an hour to feed their children. But yes, we the audience should feel so bad for this character who gets laid off, goes and cries at their friend's $1 million apartment for half an hour, goes home and immediately gets a phone call with a job offer for a position with double the salary of her previous job. Yeah. After all her whining, Andy immediately gets a new job offer with a huge promotion and a salary boost. Oh my god, like, hashtag relatable character. So her new job offer is to be the feature editor at Runway, you know, the magazine from the last movie. So that means that she's going to be in charge of all of the headline stories for Runway. However, she's given this job by the head of the publishing company, not Miranda. So Miranda is completely blindsided by this development. And since it's a surprise for Miranda, she immediately fires someone to make room for Andy. Someone that she mentions was the first in her family to graduate from college and has worked her entire life for this position. Andy pays no mind to this and starts working on helping the magazine that is currently in trouble for endorsing a fast fashion company that runs massive sweatshops. But don't worry, because Andy cares about workers' rights so much, you guys. She cares so much. After reintroducing Andy to the rest of the supporting cast, we find out that Miranda is up for a big promotion with the publishing company. And as soon as they decide to announce that promotion, the owner of the publishing company just magically explodes.
What's this?
I think he's choking.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he can't get air.
So now, his son, a dirty, rotten millennial scoundrel who wears athleisure wear, owns the company. And because he's played by BJ Novak, he announces budget cuts out the wazoo. And, oh no! Thanks to all these budget cuts, all of the millionaires who work at the world's biggest fashion magazine have to ride in an airplane. In coach. Can you imagine a worse punishment? Having to ride an international airplane to Italy with no champagne? The horror. Seriously though, yeah, this is a big part of the movie where they announce all these budget cuts, and the main thing is that Miranda's not going to be able to ride around in her private jet or have a private car take her everywhere. But honestly, in real life, even if the company said, yeah, with budget cuts, we're not paying for your private jets anymore, first of all, I feel like budget cuts would primarily affect people at the bottom of the totem pole, you know, people doing the actual work and getting very little pay. I feel like they'd take the cafeteria away or something, or reduce benefits somewhere. Like, that just feels a lot more realistic than ever telling some CEO or head of a company, yeah, you don't get your jet anymore. But whatever. I just really doubt that a huge executive like Miranda would be forced to give up her private jet. And in the first movie, when they try to retire her, she threatens to take all of her connections with her. So her original plan was just to say, hey everybody, if I leave, you're leaving with me. And then the entire magazine would become a failure. Like, they would lose all their money. There would be no one to do their work, right? So why does she not just do that now and say, hey, give me my budget back, or I'm taking myself and everyone with me? Plus, with how the movie expresses that people really care about workers' rights and how layoffs are evil, I think the whole group would have a really easy time, like, making a big deal out of it to the press, especially since they're also highlighting journalism as being like a big thing of integrity and like how important it is and how it changes people's lives and stuff. So like, why not do something with that? Secondly, Miranda owns an entire apartment in New York City and a house in the Hamptons, likely a house in Paris as well. I think she can afford her own private jet, or even just first class tickets. Again, remember in the first movie when she's trapped by the hurricane and she tells Andy to call Donatella, get her jet. She can literally borrow other people's jets. She has that many connections. And that's just how rich she is. That's an option for her. So Andy spends the rest of the film trying to figure out how to save her job and Miranda's job, because budget cuts apparently mean reducing an entire budget to zero. And because Andy is just so smart and resourceful, she comes up with the perfect plan. She runs to Emily and asks if her billionaire boyfriend will buy the magazine. Yeah, because Emily has a billionaire boyfriend now. Like every relatable woman in America. I mean, we all have friends with a billionaire boyfriend nowadays, right? And we girls have to stick together by borrowing our friends' boyfriend's money to save a Fortune 500 company, I guess. However, about 5 minutes later, it's revealed that Emily is actually the bad guy, and she wants Runway all to herself. She plans to fire Miranda and take over as chief editor. Aha. To make matters even worse, Emily's boyfriend is like an Elon Musk kind of guy, and he plans on replacing all of the models with AI and sending a spaceship to the sun or something.
Wait, only that ship is going to Mars. Ours is headed for the sun. Don't worry, Dad. We'll be dead in 5 minutes.
Not fast enough.
I'm not kidding, those were actual plot points and things said in the movie. So Miranda has her all is lost moment
The all is lost moment.
in front of a Prada and Yves Saint Laurent advertisement and then goes home to Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh tells her to buck up because she's a badass bitch who don't need no man. And with that, Miranda's spirits are lifted and she tells Andy to call everyone they know. So Andy calls everyone that they know. And so by doing that, Andy calls a rich lady, which they interviewed once at the beginning of the movie, and this rich lady buys the entire publishing company, including Runway, effectively nullifying Emily's boyfriend's authority. Yeah, so when Andy first starts back at Runway, she gets an interview with Lucy Liu, who happens to be a billionaire that was once married to Emily's current billionaire boyfriend. And since they did just such a good interview, and because ex-boyfriends are just the worst, or ex-husbands, I guess, whatever, Lucy Liu buys the company and just gives it to them, I guess. Because billionaires are the true heroes after all. Right, guys? Miranda gets to keep her job, Andy gets to keep her job, Nigel gets to keep his job, and all of their underlings are promoted to a slightly higher position. Except that one bitch who got fired in the beginning. Fuck her, I guess. So the moral of the story is, if you're worried about losing your job, just ask one of your billionaire friends to buy the company. It all works out in the end. So yeah, I didn't like this movie. It was way too long. I kept checking my watch to see if it was almost time to leave. Yeah, the pacing was just bad and most of the movie felt like filler. For some reason, they gave Andy and Miranda new boyfriends who are just unconditionally supportive and nice. Luckily, I didn't have to sit through another evil Nate boyfriend scenario, but honestly, the new supportive boyfriend that just like lets Andy walk all over him was kind of worse. Andy is a bitch to her boyfriend at one point in the movie for absolutely no reason, and he's just like, you do you, girl, no worries, I'll be waiting for you, kisses. And like, same thing with Miranda's new boyfriend or husband, played by Kenneth Branagh. She straight up tells Kenneth Branagh like that she loves work more than she loves him or her children. And Ken is just like, cool, sounds good. Yeah, alright. I have a feeling they were trying to fix, I don't think it's a secret that everyone hates the way that Andy's boyfriend and friends treat her in the first movie, so they try to fix that by making everyone just like a yes man and be like, yay, I love you, you're the best. But like, that completely ruins Andy's character development from the first movie, as well as Miranda's, because the point of the first movie was like Miranda had to sacrifice basically everything about her life except for her job in order to keep her job going. And so by just giving her a husband that's unconditionally like, yeah, do whatever you want all the time, I don't care, that defeats the whole point. But okay. There was also a lot of weird humor in this movie, kind of like pandering to millennials, but not actually millennial humor, if that makes sense. I feel like they wanted to bring up PC culture a lot. Like, Miranda kept saying little microaggressions during meetings, and her assistant just kept like her whenever she said something weird. Like, at one point she said that she wanted to kill herself, and she was like, what, I'm not allowed to say that anymore? Like, I'm not gonna kill other people, just, everyone was like, no, you can't say that, you can't say that. Just stuff like that, I don't know. Which brings me to another disappointing part about this movie, and I knew that this would happen. Like, there was no way to make a sequel of this movie without this happening, but they just completely ruined all of the characters in this movie. In the first movie, I thought Andy was intelligent and thoughtful, maybe a bit clumsy and awkward, but like, that's part of her charm, right? In the sequel, she's overconfident, she's loud, and she doesn't seem to give a shit about anyone except for herself. She says a lot of stuff that I think is supposed to sound good, and she tells you that she's a good person and that like she cares about things, but every action she takes says the opposite. Everything that she does in the film represents her as like just this conniving kind of narcissistic person. Like, really, she kind of also becomes another Miranda. All that character development in the first movie may as well have never happened. And Miranda was originally a powerful and confident leader and like a very secretive and vengeful strategist. In this movie, she's a tamed yes man. She no longer says what she's thinking in fear of an HR violation. She bends to the will of the publishing company rather than making them work for her. She bows down to advertisement agencies and tabloid topics, and overall she's just weakened. Like, basically everything in this movie could have been solved if in the very beginning Miranda just said, no, actually we're doing this my way, which is essentially what they do at the end. So in this movie, she's no longer a threatening and domineering powerhouse. Instead, she's just like a slightly mean grandma who occasionally says something racist and overdresses. Oh, and the fashion was just unnoteworthy. I feel like every character had an outfit or two that I liked, but for the most part, they were wearing pieces that made me go, who would actually wear that? Ew. Oh, and there was one point in the movie where they made this big deal about an outfit that Andy wanted to wear, and Nigel wouldn't give it to her because it was too fancy. You know, they have this whole back and forth of like, ooh, please, can I wear that? Can I wear that, please? And he's like, no, it's too fancy. I don't want you to get it dirty, like, no. But eventually he gives in, and he's just like, okay, but you have to have it back first thing on Monday, and it's really too fancy for the Hamptons where you're going, and like, if you get one stain on it, I'll kill you, whatever. And they don't show you the outfit while they're negotiating this. It's off screen the whole time. And so then the scene cuts to Andy getting on a bus and heading to Miranda's house in the Hamptons. And the whole time she's holding on to her suitcase and a garment bag. So I figured the outfit must be in that garment bag. But the longer the scene went on, I realized, oh, she's already wearing the fancy dress she wanted. I genuinely thought the dress that she was like begging to wear was just an outfit for riding the bus, like some clothes that you don't care about for riding the bus. Because they built it up to be this big fancy thing that would be too fancy for the Hamptons, but it honestly looks like the kind of outfit you can get at a hotel gift shop. Like, I'm pretty sure my mom has a dress like that packed away with all of her maternity clothes. I don't have much to say to wrap this up, so I'm gonna go call my best friend's boyfriend. He's a billionaire, and I want him to buy YouTube so that I can be at the top of trending, so. And that way, I won't have to work for it, right? American dream. I appreciate you being here. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you liked it, or if you didn't, I don't care, just subscribe anyway. And if you take anything away from this video, I hope it's this. People who wear tracksuits are evil, money solves everything, and all Australians know each other. Okay, bye.